Hey YouTube, this is Mike here. Uh, I just wanted to talk about a few things that have been on my mind. First and foremost, if you haven't had the chance to read this book right here, Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, I highly, highly recommend it. Today over at MSNBC, there was a short little article by Reuters that was talking about AIG, or not AIG, but Goldman Sachs owning several warehouses in Detroit and in London, and they've been stockpiling aluminum. It's not necessarily Goldman Sachs, but it is a subsidiary called Metro. And I guess under some agreements, they can legally warehouse materials such as aluminum, and they only have to release so much of it at a time per month. And how so many industrialized companies that need it in order to manufacture the products are having a hard time getting it. It's being released at very, very small amounts, the amounts that barely can sustain a lot of these companies. Some of these companies got to wait a year in order to get the tonnage they need in order to make the products that they need. That was something that kind of bothered me. It was the point of why would Goldman Sachs be so into warehousing of materials such as aluminum, when especially nowadays the biggest thing seems to be gold and silver. Everyone wants to be diversifying their portfolio by trading in their fiat currency for gold and silver, because gold and silver are trading at such extraordinarily historical rate right now. What is gold, like $1,500 an ounce? The first thing I started thinking of was, looking at the protesters in Greece, looking at protesters in the UK, protesters that are starting to begin here in the United States, all over the world, whether it be in Indonesia. People are rioting against the currency and the centralized banks in which they depend on that currency. And so gold rising through the roof, it makes you really wonder. Goldman Sachs was also the main culprit behind the 2008 debacle, to where the housing boom finally came to a burst, and a lot of people lost everything. That's when the massive, what I call the great, it was a depression. It's not a recession. It was a depression that happened here in the United States, and the ripple effect was shown all over the world. You look at the debacle on what happened, and when Paulson went before Congress, and Paulson was former CEO of Goldman Sachs, got this big $700 billion bailout package along with Ben Bernanke, and all of a sudden this money's funneling down through AIG, who was holding these insurances on these toxic CDOs, and over $12 billion went directly to Goldman Sachs. So it was upper people at Goldman Sachs, upper people at J.P. Morgan, upper people at Bank of America that reaped humongous benefits and profits off of this taxpayer bailout. Why? Because the system was too big to fail. But getting back to the aluminum thing, something that's got me kind of concerned is the fact of, with the global escalation and people rising up against the fiat currency and the currency failing, to where, as John Perkins put it, the corporatocracy, which has been working so hard ever since 1953, when Kermit Roosevelt overthrew Mossadegh in Iran, and the Shah was and the Shah came back to take over and became an American puppet for the oil industry, namely the oil company that was a precursor to British Petroleum, BP. Yeah, our personal favorite. And you look at it from a perspective of, you look at it from a business perspective of, is actually kind of smart. They're stockpiling aluminum, and aluminum is one of those minerals, or one of those materials that just really, really saturates every aspect of our life, whether it be from the aluminum cans you buy your soda in, to the aluminum cans you buy your canned goods in, to the cars that you buy that have nothing but aluminum bodies, aluminum chassis, to the airplanes that have the aluminum fuselage. The cars have the aluminum motors, the aluminum blocks. Aluminum with buildings and everything else. Aluminum is one of those metal alloys that it seems to saturate every bit of infrastructure that we know of in society. So you have people that are diversing portfolios, people that are investing in gold, and people that are saying, well, when the currency finally fails, they're going to have all this money in gold and silver. But then what are they going to spend it on? What are they going to spend it on? They're going to spend it on the materials that are going to make them more money. So you have companies like Goldman Sachs that now are stockpiling tonnage and tonnage and tonnage, roughly 25% of the total global, amount of aluminum inside these warehouses that are ran by Metro. So if there was a global system collapse and all the products still needed to be built for a lot of industrialized countries, not necessarily the lower industrialized countries, but the higher industrialized countries. Now Goldman Sachs now would have a monopoly on the material in which we pretty much run. So the people that would have all the gold and all the silver would have to buy aluminum in order to make these products. So aluminum will become a commodity that that's going to become indispensable. When you look at all this and you look at what's going on in the world, it just makes you really wonder. Is there something going on that none of us really know about? And you can see how the major money manipulators such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the Asian Development Bank, the United States Agency for International Development, they have all created this entire global empire in which they go in and they tell these countries, well, these countries that have the resources at least that we want, and they say, well, you're going to need this much money in order for us to build the infrastructure, in order to build the electrical, to build the engineering, everything else, such as what happened with Saudi Arabia back in the late 60s, early 70s, and the rapid escalation of turning Saudi Arabia into a modernized country after for centuries it was nothing but nomadic Wahhabis running around, tending to their goats. And now it's one of the most sophisticated societies such as Dubai and everywhere else where oil has become a main commodity, and they pretty much control the oil production around the world. Now oil with water being the same way, major companies are purchasing so many vast amounts of acreage in land that has so much water. Water is going to become the next oil. It's going to become the next blue gold. Now, as society continues to turn, we continually use more and more resources, and resources are becoming obsolete. And they're becoming obsolete because we use so much of them and we discard of so much of them. And it's mainly here in the United States and a lot of other Western industrialized countries, what we don't use, we throw away. And there's recycling has become a big thing, but it's still not as big as it needs to be, and it probably never will be, because with recycling, yes, the people that recycle are the people that really truly do care, but corporations don't care. They care about the bottom line, and they care about the quarterly profit earnings statement that's going to the shareholders. So these companies that are going in and raping, pillaging all these other countries, and they're leaving other people in the dust, we, the United States people, are no different. We tend to think we are because we live in the freest country in the world, but yet there's something to be said about the freest country in the world where we're saturated by laws, rules, and regulations that keep us from saying what we really want to say. Freedom of speech is really and truly not freedom of speech. You speak out against the government, then you're anti-patriotic. You speak out against the war in Afghanistan or any kind of involvement in Libya, you're unpatriotic. You get your news anywhere else other than Fox News, you're considered a commie pinko liberal. The stereotypes are just everywhere. And so the question is, why would Goldman Sachs want so much aluminum? Why would they want so much aluminum, seeing such a humongous debt crisis across the globe? And why would so many people be diversifying in gold when gold was going to be the next standard as far as your wealth? Those people are going to have to spend that gold on something. And aluminum makes the world go round. It's one of those kind of metals that just seems to get no attention. Yet, without it, the world would be a much different place. So, take that into perspective. You can go to msnbc.com. You got to go to search. It was on there earlier this morning, and today is July 31st. So go check it out, look for yourself, read it, tell me what you think, leave a post underneath my video. Have a good one.